Call to order the Finance Committee meeting on July 31st, 2023 at 6:45 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening. It is order number 23-100-8937, communication from Mayor Vigent with proposed amendment to City Code, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 5, preparation of classification descriptions to add a new position of Special Traffic Constable within the Police Department per request of Police Chief Georgie. I'll begin by reading the letter submitted by Mayor Vigent. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I'm submitting a request to create a Special Traffic Constable position to be used at the traffic details. A job description and salary ordinance is attached for your review. Currently, the city is experiencing a decline in police officers and has not been able to fill vacant positions, leading to a reduction of officers available for traffic details. To maintain safety, it is our request to use special traffic constables when we are not able to fill traffic details with police officers. Constables are retired police officers being appointed solely for performing paid traffic details, as noted in Chief Georgie's enclosed letter. Police Georgie will be on hand to answer any questions. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent. But this evening, we have Lieutenant Dan Campbell. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, Lieutenant.
Again, my name's Lieutenant Dan Campbell. Chief Georgie obviously couldn't make it tonight, so he asked me to come. I've worked with Chief Georgie on this policy, so I am familiar with everything and hopefully can answer all your questions. Just briefly, what this assignment is we're looking to incorporate some other officers that have aged out as far as retirement goes. Once you reach 65, you can no longer be a police officer. You've reached superannuation. This would allow officers from 65 to 70 to work paid details the same way on traffic. They would have no police powers at all, and it would probably incorporate, we have a list of about, I'd say 6 to 10 officers or traffic constables that we'd be able to add, so hopefully alleviate some of the traffic requests we've been getting, because it's been a lot recently. Is there any questions or anything I can go over the duties, everything that you'd like? I just
the first question I know was in Chief Georgie's letter that this is not going to come out of the police budget at all. Is that because of individual details? If it's a private company, they're paying for it? That was the question that I had had.
And that's correct, Councilman. This is going to be exactly the way that our special police officers operate and work. The company will pay the traffic officer, or excuse me, the way it goes is that the city pays, however, obviously with the slush fund, and then it goes directly where the contractor then pays.
I understand. Thank you so much. Now I'll open it up to the Finance Committee and to the rest of the council. Council Perlman.
Thank you, Chair Irish, and thank you so much for joining us. And I appreciate you already answering the question about the age. I was curious if there was also a maximum. I had a couple questions. One was around the uniform that these individuals will wear. Will they be very visible as still having the ability to direct traffic, and what that might look like?
Yeah, of course. So one thing that I actually end up working with too is a state accreditation board. So we get a lot of insight on what different departments have done. This policy's been tailored from probably about 4 or 5 different ones that I've been able to get from them. What it's going to end up saying is traffic control on the back of their uniform. It's going to be different from the regular officers too. It'll basically, I think what we decided on is it's going to be green as you see with traffic officers. It'll have a blue stripe at the bottom just to kind of differentiate them from other traffic officers, but they're going to be very visible. That's, you know, what we really want to see is to make everyone safe out when we're in traffic.
Okay, that's really helpful to know. And then I know you were talking about kind of what's in the posting as well that we received, and I was just curious if the hourly amount was designated from best practices in other communities, or if it was based upon what someone might typically make per hour for this role. I was just wondering where that number came from as well.
Yeah, and that is actually what our special officers make. So we just kept the same salary table moving forward with it.
Okay, great. No, I think this is a really great way to you know, relieves some of the demand on our officers' time, and it makes a lot of sense to have this position. Is the intention, like you said before, there would be a pool of people, and then people could sign up for particular details? Is that the way you're anticipating it?
So right now, we have a few actually officers that are going to phase out within a year or so that are turning 65 and wouldn't be eligible to work. And we have about 4 or 6 other officers, too, that have expressed interest, too. So everyone would have been a former officer. Again, they just reached that superannuation date, so they can no longer work as a special officer. So we want to transition this role just to traffic safety.
Okay, great. Well, I'm definitely in support of this, and I have no further questions.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Landers.
I'm not on the Finance Committee, but I'm going to say it tonight rather than wait until we vote on the full council. I have a few relatives, you know, that are cops. I got a niece, my favorite niece, that just retired as an FBI agent. I don't like the part that you have somebody out there that looks like a cop, you know, maybe acts like a cop, and they can't carry their gun. Is that a local rule, or is that something that's kind of universal?
No, 65, unfortunately, that's the cutoff. We cannot allow any,
Is that a Marlborough rule, or is it a state?
No, state. That's a state rule, Councilor Landers. Once you reach 65, the same with officers, too, they can no longer be an officer any longer. And I understand your argument for that, too. We'd obviously like it. That's the reason why, too, as you see with our special officers, Chief Georgie likes them to maintain the ability to have police powers. A lot of the departments in different communities, too, they've moved from where they'll just post it as traffic control. A lot of them haven't been former officers or kind of have any idea what we do. That's why Chief Georgie's trying to transition this role from at least to have former officers there before. I know they won't have those police powers anymore, and it's something, Chief Georgie, I think if we weren't so in a position where we needed to fill this, I don't think we would have moved towards this. But I think it's a necessity, just how many details and traffic control, you know, traffic issues that we have throughout the city because of all these details, to try to fill it and still be regulated within the police department.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see the special police rather than out-of-towners.
Yeah.
Because, you know, nothing against these guys from the contiguous towns, but they don't know the Marlborough, they don't know the area, can't give good directions,
Yeah.
and so forth. We did have a couple of flag people on Hosmer Street last week. I don't know how that happened, but for some reason, you probably didn't have enough people, and it was kind of a water project there, you know. But that's the biggest concern I have. If I was a former policeman, I'm not so sure if I'd want to, because, you know, there's still some bad guys out there, and some of these bad guys have memories. And not that they'd pull a gun on a police officer, but they might give them that little, you know, hey, 5 years ago, I don't know. But if it's, I guess my point is, if it's state law 65, I can't argue against it. But I have great reservations about that.
I think we would love to keep it internally as well, too.
Yeah.
Just because, and especially, again, with Marlborough officers or former retired ones that we could make specials, we just don't have the pool to do it any longer.
Yeah,
because
I
I
can see
agree
that.
with you.
No, I can
having a
see
radio and having the ability to know the city throughout, I mean, not only even just as simple as just being able to give people directions and accurate directions and knowing which routes to take and how to keep everyone kind of safe.
See, I used to argue against flag people. You know,
Yeah.
you notice we're one of the few states. I know New York and Pennsylvania, they always had flag people on major highways. We stuck more or less with the troopers.
Right.
And to me, that's just more protection out there.
Yeah.
You know, they have the car, they have the radio, and God forbid, they have their weapon, you know. Plus, it makes the town safer if you have 10 policemen on duty and you have 6 or 8 people doing road work.
Right.
You know, that gives you a lot more policemen out there, but I guess I can't argue if it's state law.
Yeah, and I know Councilor Landers. We would love it too. I mean, if we could, it just, and I think you're seeing throughout the state too, some of, especially more, some of the flagmen, and I see those problems presented because a lot of them don't have accurate training. They don't know the area they're from.
That's the key.
And quite frankly, I don't think a lot of them care that much. So they're not really that vested in, you know, making sure traffic is safe. But unfortunately, that's why we're trying to create this to at least be under our umbrella too, so we can have a little bit more reign and say if, you know, if you guys are getting complaints as counselors about some of these people, at least they're, you know, within our department and they know that they, you know, if they mess up, they're not going to be traffic controlling.
Yeah, they don't recognize my car and my number.
That's true too.
I'm only kidding. Mr. Chairman, I'm all set.
Thank you, Councilor. I'll go to Councilor Brown, and then I'll go to Councilor Navin. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Irish. I just wanted to speak in support of the traffic constable position. I had a recent conversation with Chief Georgie, and my Ward 4, it consists of some of the area of Lincoln and Broad Street, and I had had a constituent concern. They were a business owner and a resident of the area, and just from a conversation with Chief Georgie, he'd explained a lot about certain community officers being on patrol and Officer Wicks being just off of patrol now and being able to join back on the community shift that he was doing. I feel like if we're already kind of shifting things around in that way, it makes a lot of sense to have this position available to hopefully free people up, and as others have said, just have somebody knowledgeable about the city, the way to direct traffic, just to keep it as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, I'm also speaking in support of this. Appreciate the proposal. We see during the day when we're doing major construction projects across the state, we cannot get details anywhere. And you know, the departments across the Commonwealth are strapped. We've got a couple of projects in Boston right now, and it's like you ask for 8 details and you just don't know what you're going to get on a daily basis. And so it makes it dangerous for the crews, it makes it dangerous for the officers who are able to be there, and it makes it dangerous for the people who are driving through there. So, you know, I think this is a smart proposal, and furthermore, having people, as other folks have said, locally that know the area, probably know the people that they're going to be working with, and, you know, probably know a lot of the crews as well. It's, I think it could be helpful. So I appreciate that. I'll be supporting this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Navin. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So maybe I have a little different opinion of the current system. I find it interesting when I drive and there's a police detail that they're not directing traffic, they're standing looking at the workers. So this says that that's their job. The power is to direction, control, regulation of vehicular traffic. So that's what they'll be doing.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
I think sometimes if you've seen, and I'm not sure if you're referring to officers working, and if that's them standing and doing that, that's a particular issue within our department we need to address. But sometimes with the flaggers you may see in, a lot of them are only supposed to hold the sign, and they're directed in certain ways that they can't really control the flow of traffic the same way officers can.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a flag holder in Massachusetts. I'm used to them everywhere else, but I guess this will be something that's worth trying. I am curious, is it's listed at $62.50 per hour, so is that comparable to what an officer would be getting?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what our special officers make too, so we try to keep it consistent.
And will they also be on a 3-hour shift even if they only work a half hour, or will they actually be paid for only what they work?
So those officers will fall under the same rules as the special officers, where it's a 4-hour, it's 2 4-hour blocks, the same way as before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rubin. Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 23-100-8937, proposed amendment to City Code, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 5, preparation of classification descriptions to add a new position of Special Traffic Constable within the Police Department. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It carries 4-0. And would we be asking for suspension, Mr. President?
I think the chief is looking for suspension.
Is that okay with the finance team to have a suspension? And we'll have that suspension, Mr. President.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned at 6:59 PM.